Let's move on to this then, just a little bit broader when it comes to macroeconomics, as it were. Luno, that's the South African cryptocurrency exchange. Well, they're calling on National Treasury, or the government ultimately, to enact long overdue regulatory changes that will hopefully help to unlock economic growth and development. Now, it says that South Africa risks falling behind in the global progress that is made in embracing or taking on cryptocurrency as a recognized asset class by institutional as well as individual investors. They're calling on the finance minister, to classify Bitcoin and the likes as an onshore asset when held by local licensed cryptocurrency exchanges. Let's speak now to Paul Harker, Global Head of Legal and Corporate Strategy at Luno. Paul, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Let's just break this down in terms of simplicity, if you will. Let's just talk about what it is that you're aiming for here. You want regulations to ultimately change so that if you are buying cryptocurrency from the likes of Luno yourselves, which is a local cryptocurrency corporation then, that it's actually classified as an onshore investment. Why?
Thanks, Arabile. Pleasure to be here. So to break it down in simple terms, what we're looking for is clarity from National Treasury on when, under what conditions cryptocurrency can be considered an onshore asset. And when I say onshore here, I'm talking about the classification of the asset class. South Africa has a capital control regime, as I'm sure many people are familiar with, which governs the movement of assets out of and into South Africa. With a digital currency, we really need to know at what point that asset is considered to be onshore. And the reason that is because there are restrictions on how much capital institutional investors are able to allocate to foreign assets. So if the asset of Bitcoin is considered a domestic asset, that unlocks significant local investment opportunity in that asset class.
You also have to get the buy-in of the South African Reserve Bank, because they seem pretty reluctant as well, don't they?
Yes, they are a key stakeholder working with Treasury. We've been engaging with them for a number of years now. I think we are making progress. You've seen really good regulatory development in the country already with the FSCA declaring crypto digital assets as financial products, and so bringing platforms like Luno under the regulatory framework. But this is really the key piece that's missing now, which is that a fairly straightforward classification of when the asset can exist onshore. And it's really in both the industry and government's best interest to do so because of the immense opportunity that exists to drive economic growth, which, as I'm sure you can appreciate, and I'm sure your listeners do as well, we are really struggling with as a country at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that latter part in the question after I ask this one. Why has it not been seen in a favorable light so far? Why is crypto being seen? Is it because it's also called cryptocurrency when perhaps to some it doesn't feel like it's being seen as a currency anymore and just an investment?
Yes, it's a good question. So, for example, the way that the FSCA have looked at it is definitely as an asset class. So they will talk of crypto asset as the terminology. And it really is, at its core, that's what it is. And that's from what we see as Luno, the biggest use case is crypto as a form of investment. And when you have that, really what goes hand in hand with that is understanding when is that investment existing onshore, local, opening it up to investment from all your local asset managers and South Africans, or is it offshore, which is quite restrictive, and you really then lose that opportunity to leverage the asset class to drive economic growth in the country.
Yeah, let's talk about that economic growth. How exactly would further investment in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin actually drive economic growth and help boost Enoch Godongwana's mandate here?
Sure. So we know that Bitcoin, which is the largest digital asset by market capitalization, has been the best performing asset of the last 10 years, and by quite some way. And so what we've got is a situation where we've got a lot of institutional asset manager interest in investing into that asset class that is currently held back by the classification of whether it's onshore or offshore. Obviously, the more capital they're able to allocate to the asset class, the more that grows, the bigger returns for South Africans, and ultimately the revenue service is able to then get a share of that to grow the contribution of capital into the fiscus.
Yeah, one would wonder, though, that does it not just take away maybe from other investments? So instead of putting more money in investing in shares, one would take that money and just invest in Bitcoin, for example, if that was to be the case, which then means that you haven't invested more, you've just split your investments, and the return then for the South African Revenue Service by the way of SARS is almost the same.
I think it's a really good question. I think it goes to the performance of the asset class over time. So as I said, Bitcoin has been the best performing asset, bar none, for the last 10 years, generating at least four times the returns of the next best performing asset class, being gold. So what you've got is amplified returns, which then means that you've grown the pot which is available for you to tax. And this is really a significant opportunity for us at the moment, because there is so much capital sitting on the sidelines waiting to be invested in the asset class. We just need that fairly straightforward minor regulatory clarity from Treasury.
So what drives cryptocurrency, if you'll help me here? Because that becomes the key question. When anybody says I'm investing in shares, you know that it's ultimately the company's strategy, etc., that drives that. If somebody says they're investing in gold, it's physical gold that you can see, that you can actually buy. What do you back cryptocurrency with?
It's a technology. So it is a revolutionary technology that has significant real world application. If you think of it just in terms of payment rails, for example, the ability to make payments from anywhere in the world to a location instantaneously for free. And so it's that technology and what that is able to unlock that really drives the value in the asset class.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. Your anticipations, perhaps very quickly for this budget, you see anything major coming out of it with regards to some of the regulations on crypto and the like, even just a mention?
We would certainly hope so. I think we've seen with the delay of the budget speech that there is a clamor for announcements that are going to drive economic growth. And as I hope I've laid out in this conversation, there really is a significant opportunity from a digital asset space with a fairly light touch regulatory, with some light touch regulatory clarity. There's a lot that we can unlock from an economic growth perspective. And so we would really be looking to the minister to see something to that effect in the budget speech this week.